After a long time waiting, the February refines are here, and we have some fan favorites in the form of Reginn, Bernadetta, the mythic Triandra, and even Ashnard. So let's jump in and see how well these units were treated. Okay, let's start off with Reginn, one of the big fan favorites. So we have a speed +3, we have enables Canto 3 during turns 1 through 4. If Reginn initiates combat, we get attack and speed +6, defense and res +4. We neutralize her penalties to attack and speed, and we get 40% damage reduction against the foe's first attack, but now it is brave. We then jump into the actual refine, and if her HP is greater than or equal to 25%, she gets a +4 to all stats, she gets no follow-up, full no follow-up this time, and deals damage equal to 20% of unit speed, but not with AoEs. Now before we discuss this, let's move over to the remix of Sather Shell. So we have Sather Shell, 3 cooldown special, and then at the start of turn 1 and at the start of turn 4, it's going to grant special cooldown count -3 to it, it's going to boost your damage by 20, and you get adaptive damage. This is not a great refine. Let's start at the top. So essentially what happened is that they did not change the Canto 3 clause at all. Everybody was expecting her to just get permanent Canto 3. She didn't get that, so that's already a downside. It's not like the worst thing, but it's definitely a downside. They then gave her some stats in defense and res. I don't know why IS just hates giving out like the same stats along the board just to make it easier to read. They refuse to do that, so we're only getting defense and res +4 for some reason. We are getting penalty neutralization to attack and speed, which is pretty solid. That is like a nice quality of life there. And then they changed the damage reduction from 30% against the foe's first attack to 40, so we got a nice boost there, and it works against brave attacks, which is great. And then the actual refine, we're getting some more stats, no follow-up, which is good. It allows, Reginn to double, and then we're getting some true damage, which is nice as well. Sather Shell is just a joke though. Like this remix is like probably one of the worst remixes we've ever gotten. Everybody was like kind of expecting for us to get damage reduction piercing here because that just makes sense, right? Instead, they give us a recharge on turn 4 and 5 more damage. Like it is ridiculously garbage. Like this is just absolute trash. So overall, Reginn's refine is just pretty mid. We didn't really get the things we wanted. We didn't get the quality of life where we wanted, right? We wanted permanent Canto 3 so that she would just be more mobile and like just easier to get pots and stuff like that. We wanted damage reduction piercing in some way, because a lot of times when you use Reginn, what you're doing is she comes in like with the Wings of Mercy or something, kills a unit, and then gets out with her Canto, right? Something like that. Like we wanted a way for her to nuke at least once really hard and then escape. And we really didn't get that, right? Damage reduction is literally everywhere. She has no way to get through it unless you swap out her preference special for no quarter, which is just like a slap in the face, especially because she doesn't have slaying either. So like, it's just not great. It's really, really not very good at all. So I definitely think Reginn got a small power boost, and she's going to be better than she was before, but it's really not going to change her performance in any way, in my opinion. You're pretty much going to be using her the exact same way you were using her before, unfortunately. Okay, let's move on to Rinkah, and Rinkah got actually a pretty cool refine here. So you have Rinkah's club, this has slaying, and then if the foe initiates combat, or if the foe's HP is greater than or equal to 75%, or if Rinkah's HP is less than or equal to 99%, so she has 3 conditions to activate her weapon. She gets attack and defense +5, speed and res +4. Once again, I don't know why they can't just give +5 to all stats. Like it's 2 stats, IS, come on. She also gets special acceleration, and she gets flat damage reduction based off her defense equal to 15%, but it's only against the foe's first attack, but it is brave. So this is already pretty cool. And then if Rinkah is within 3 spaces of an ally, she's gonna get another +4 to all stats. And then when she deals damage, she'll heal 7 HP, so every attack, which is really nice. She'll get an additional 40% damage reduction against the foe's first attack, once again brave. And then lastly, she gets an Ice Mirror effect where she will reflect all the damage she reduced back at the enemy. This is a pretty good refine, right? Like Rinkah got pretty much most of the things she wants. She got stackable DR. It's 2 different types of damage reduction, which is exactly what you want, right? The fact that it can also get reflected back at the enemy is really strong. It's going to give her a lot more killing power. Because she has slaying, she could also use like the Marth Ring and use no quarter so she can get through damage reduction. Like this pretty much gives her a majority of the things she wants. She even has special acceleration, so you don't have to use the Marth Ring, but it does make it a little bit better just in case of guard, right? So there's just a lot of good flexibility here, and I think Rinkah got a really solid refine. It's not like game breaking or anything, but I think it's like 1 step below Legendary Chords is where I'd essentially put it at, which is a pretty good place to be. So overall, I think Rinkah's gonna be a pretty solid Omni tank now, and she could definitely put in some work with the correct builds. And the cool thing is you can even change up her builds depending on what kind of problems you have. So overall, great refine. Really happy that Rinkah got treated so well. But now let's talk about a green unit who didn't get treated very well. We have Mythic Triandra. So you have Flower of Sorrow, you get attack +3, you inflict defense and res -5 on any foe in the cardinal direction of Triandra during combat. So it used to be 4, so it got upgraded to 5, so -1 more stat, which is not the biggest deal. And then if the foe's HP is greater than or equal to 75% at the start of combat, or if there's another foe within 2 spaces of that foe, you're going to get to inflict another -4 to all stats. Then when it comes to the actual refine, so essentially when Triandra is fighting, she'll get -8 to all stats on the foe during combat. She'll get a guaranteed follow-up attack, and then after combat, if she attacked, she'll deal like a splash damage. She'll deal 10 damage to the foe, and then any foes within 2 spaces. So, I mean, I don't really have to explain this. Triandra got a combat refine, which typically isn't great on dancers. It's pretty bad, so that's already not great. Let's go over to her remix and check that out. So we have Frightful Dream. This is a dance, and it inflicts -5 to all stats, guard and discords on foes in cardinal directions of herself and the target ally she's dancing through their next actions. Okay, so this dance is pretty solid, right? Inflicting guard and discord is pretty nice. It can like mess up their specials and can also just make them lose a lot of stats, which is good. But when we look at the overall weapon herself, the problem with Triandra and why she's the worst mythic dancer by far is that she is just too attack oriented. A lot of times what's going to happen is that she's a ranged unit who has good attack. So she's going to just go in and attack the enemy and then die. And so she's not getting the dance off a lot of the times, which is the big problem with her. And the splash damage, like, I guess that adds some value to her attacking and dying, but like, not really. Like, it's just not what you want your defensive mythic to ever do, right? You want your defense dancer to dance. And so even if her dance got a decent upgrade, the fact that she won't be dancing very often does not help it very much. So overall, I think this refine is just complete trash. I don't think it fixes any of Triandra's problems. It doesn't give her enough support outside of the dance for her to like actually have some value. And honestly, I think the best thing about Triandra's refine and remix was that she got Firestorm Dance 3, so we can kill her. That's honestly the best thing. So let's just move on to the next unit. Okay, up next we're gonna talk about my boy Ashnard. So we have grants defense +3, we get Eye Out Shield, we have inflicts attack defense -5 on foes within 4 spaces now instead of 2. You get to neutralize the foe's bonuses to attack and defense during combat, so like a dull effect on those 2 stats, which is really solid. And those foes cannot make a follow-up attack, and you also get guard. Then when it comes to the actual refine, if the foe initiates combat, or if the foe's HP is greater than or equal to 75%, you're going to inflict attack and defense -X on the foe during combat, where X is 15% of Ashnard's defense at start of combat +5. So that visible defense, right? So that's pretty good. And then you're also going to get 30% damage reduction during combat, but not against AoEs. Okay, so overall, how well did Ashnard do? They definitely made him more bulky and like made him try to play that more like frontline role. And I think they did it to a good extent with all the daunt effects, right? All the minus attack is a really, really powerful thing. And when you look at it, right, he can easily get a pretty high amount. We're looking at like somewhere like between 15 and 20 minus attack on the foe, which can make him a lot more bulky. The problem is that his other effects don't really help him all that much. And the reason why is just the way the current meta is right now, right? Denying follow-ups isn't that big of a deal because every single good nuke in the game has like offensive or full no follow-up. Guard is nice, but a lot of folks have anti-guard now, so it doesn't always work that well. And his damage reduction is good, but it is pierceable. And so it just, I really wish they would have gave him some flat damage reduction. That would have done wonders. Even if it was like 10 or 15%, that would have helped him out so much. So I definitely think Ashnard can work with the correct build, and he can be like a cool frontlining unit, but I don't think he's going to be meta by any means, and I don't think he's going to stand out enough in that melee flyer role when we have such amazing options like Legendary Alencia, like Bridal Catria, like Winter Cordelia, like Summer Shez, like Har, right? Like there's so many good options right now. It's really difficult to be in that role, and I just don't think Ashnard got enough to really carve out a niche for himself, which is really unfortunate because he has like the best art in the game, some of the best art in the game. Like I love his art. But yeah, let's move on to our next unit. Okay, next up we have our other sword flyer, Young Caeda. So we get attack +3, we get effective versus swords, lances, axes, colorless bows, and armor foes. And then if the foe initiates combat, or if the foe's HP is greater than or equal to 75%, you get +4 to all stats during combat, you get full no follow-up, and then if the foe initiates combat and is one of those things she's effective against, or if her HP is less than or equal to 90%, she gets Vantage. So that's pretty cool. When we get to actual refine, she gets Canto 2, which is very good, and then she'll also get another +4 to all stats. She gets an additional bonus to her attack and speed equal to the number of allies within 3 spaces times 3, but only a max of 6 unfortunately. and then she gets 40% damage reduction against the foe's first attack by 40%, and it works with brave attacks. Okay, let's talk about young Caeda. So young Caeda came out and everybody thought she was going to break the game, but honestly she did not, and I don't think this really fixes a lot of her problems that she's had. One of the big problems she had was just a low attack stat, which meant she couldn't secure kills. Now, she does get a lot of attack in this weapon, but the thing is, she doesn't have a way to get through damage reduction reliably. And that's a really big deal because a lot of units have insane damage reduction now. So she only has two options. She has no quarter and she has like Camilla, right? Like legendary Camilla. And so with no quarter, the problem is that she doesn't have a way to easily charge it. She doesn't have slaying and she can't really afford to get hit, right? Because she's vantaging. So she needs to pop that no quarter on the first hit. She really can't do that very effectively. And then also with Camilla, it definitely does help, but it doesn't fix all of her problems. And so the real situation here is that I think Caeda is just going to vantage. She's going to hit the opponent, not kill them, and then they're going to charge the enemy special, and then they're going to blow her to smithereens, and she's just going to die. Like, that's what I think is pretty much going to happen every single time. And she just doesn't have enough to work. Now, can she work? Yes, she can work, but you're going to need to build a whole team to really give her all the effects you want on this unit. Like, you're going to want legendary Camilla, you might want legendary Hinoka, you might want some other flyers as well. The thing is that with Vantage right now, you really need some particular effects to be a good Vantage unit. And typically that is a Brave Weapon and Damage Reduction Piercing. Those are the two effects you really want to have as a Vantage unit. That's what makes Vantage units so good in my opinion. And Caeda does not easily have access to either of them. And so I just don't think this refine does enough to make her like meta at any level. I think she can work with like a ton of investment in the right team, but I don't expect to really see her in any competitive game modes, unfortunately. Okay, let's move on to our Lance Flyer, Fiora. So if a unit initiates combat, or if they're within 2 spaces of an ally, you're going to get +4 to all stats, you're going to get full no follow-up, and then also if your res is greater than the foe's res, you're going to get a Dragon Wall effect, so up to 40% damage reduction. If at start of combat, if your HP is greater than or equal to 25%, you're going to get another +4 to all stats, so a total of 8. You're going to get full tempo, so the anti-guard and the like anti-special acceleration effect, which is really solid. And then also, if Fiora is using an offensive special, right? An offensive like Moonbow, something like that, she's going to have a check on the enemy where she compares her speed and resistance versus the foe's speed and resistance -5. And it's not going to count phantom skills, which is very unusual, but kind of cool. And what that's going to do is if she wins that check, she'll get special cooldown -2 before her first attack during combat. So it's like a special jump effect, essentially. And then lastly, I don't know why they word it this way, but at start of combat, if her HP is greater than or equal to 25%, she'll heal 7 HP after combat. I really don't understand why they word things so stupidly. They could have easily combined the last sentence and the first sentence, but whatever. Okay, so how did Fiora do? I mean, Fiora's very interesting, and I think they gave her some cool effects to really play off that high resistance stat. I don't think she's gonna be like a crazy like melee flyer, but she does have some cool stuff here, right? Like she has the stats that which are nice, the damage reduction is cool, and the NFU does make like take advantage of her high speed. The full tempo is gonna allow her to like consistently charge specials. Can like put like no quarter on her and then like use the Marth ring, so that way before first combat you guarantee get that no quarter effect, which can let her get through and actually do some decent damage. But I still don't think it's enough to fix all of her problems. And like I mentioned with Ashnard before, the melee like flyer role is extremely competitive right now, like ridiculously competitive. And so you really need like some very unique, powerful effects to stand out in that role. And I think Fiora is going to be good. She's definitely going to be usable, and there's going to be a lot of different cool builds you can do with her. But I just don't think it's quite enough to make her like a top tier flyer unit. But if you really love Fiora, you can definitely make her work, and her unique combination of speed and res is going to be very solid. You just need to watch out for bows, because bows will absolutely annihilate her. Okay, let's move on to the final unit of this refined batch, Bernadetta. Now, Bernadetta is really popular right now. You know, obviously she just won CYL, so let's see how well she did. So you still have effective versus flying, you still have the attack +3, and then at start of combat, if her penalty is active on a unit, or if a unit's HP is less than or 99%, she'll get attack speed +5 during combat. She'll get a guaranteed follow-up attack now, and then she'll also get a desperation effect if she initiates combat. So this is pretty much the same as it was before. The only real difference is that we're getting a guaranteed follow-up attack now, which is good, not amazing though. I would much prefer if she got like offensive no follow-up, to be honest. Then we look at the Ashnard Refine. At start of turn, if unit is within 2 spaces of an ally, you deal 1 damage to yourself and allies within 2 spaces of unit, and grants special cooldown cap -1 to unit. And then if she initiates combat, or if the foe's HP is greater than or equal to 75%, she's going to get attack and speed +X, where X equals the damage dealt to unit as start of combat times 2 plus 5, max is 15, and then lastly she'll grant herself special acceleration. So this is a really just interesting refine. First of all, we have the Bernadetta effect, right? This is the burning effect. You deal 1 damage to yourself and all allies. This effect is really good. It's very powerful. It allows you to activate like Wings of Mercy and Gale Force teams to make it very consistent. It also allows you to activate Vantage on Aetherite's offense, which is really good as well. So the thing is, there's now 3 Bernadettas with this effect. So if you already had one, it's not the biggest deal, but if you didn't, it's a nice little upgrade. Also, you're gonna get special cooldown cap -1, so kind of like a quick impulse effect, which will pull her cooldown down 1. So like for Deadeye, it put it at 2, which is a big deal. And then lastly, that attack and speed is good. It's very weird though, because essentially the way it will work is like Bernadetta will deal 1 damage to herself, so it'll be 1 times 2 plus 5, so you'll get +7 attack and speed. If you're like on a flame tile though, you'll get like 7 plus 1, so it'll be like 8 times 2 plus 5, so you'll max out your damage. You'll max out your attack and speed buff, which is pretty interesting. So like Bernadetta wants to be on fire, I guess. I don't know. It's so weird. And then the special acceleration works really well too with the -1 special cooldown, because it will allow her to hit Deadeye on the second hit, right? So that's very cool. The thing is with Bernadetta, when it comes to her being a nuke in particular, I don't think she's going to be all that amazing. The thing is like she definitely is missing some effects like offensive no vault. She desperately wants that. There are units who can give it to her, but not having it in your own weapon kind of sucks. It's guaranteed fall attacks just aren't as good with like Hardy Fighter running around. It just shuts that down, right? So that's kind of rough. The other thing is that scowl effects are literally everywhere as well, and so the fact that she doesn't have slaying, but she can give herself cooldown, doesn't work all that well, because what will happen is she'll get the cooldown count -1, then she'll run into a scowl unit, they'll put her cooldown back up to 3 on Deadeye, and then she'll hit once and hit twice and not get Deadeye, so she won't be able to pierce DR. So I think this refine is good in the fact that it gives the Bernadetta effect, right? That alone makes it a very good refine. But like when it comes to her being a nuke, I don't think it's the greatest refine. I think it's usable. It's definitely usable, but it's not amazing. And I don't think it makes her the best Bernadetta even. I think like it's still gonna be like Valentine's Bernadetta, then this Bernadetta, then Winter Bernadetta. Either way, if you didn't have a seasonal Bernadetta before, but you have this one, now you have access to the burning effect, which is really great. So that's a big win. Okay, let's move on to who won the Refine War for February. So at the very top, I'm going to have Rinkah actually. I think Rinkah got a really solid refine. It gives her like the things she wants as an Omni tank, gives her a way to secure kills pretty easily, and she can even use no quarter very effectively, which is a big deal in the current meta. Under that, I'm going to put Bernie just because she got the Bernadetta effect, which just makes her immediately valuable no matter what, because it enables 2 different types of strategies, which is really cool. In B, I'm going to have pretty much everyone else. I think everyone else got like a decent refine that like upgrades them a little bit, makes them more usable, but doesn't make them like meta defining or like really dominant in any means. So overall, good refines, but not amazing. And then all the way in D tier, I'm gonna have Triandra. Triandra just sucks. Like she was a bad mythic to begin with, in my opinion. I know that dancers are like just good mythics in quotes, but like the thing is on defense, if you're just not dancing, you might as well not be a dancer, right? And so I think Triandra just did not get what she needed, and the fact that her only value really is in her dance if she dances is really rough. And so for me, I just see Firestorm dance fodder now, and that is what she's going to be from now on. Okay, with all that said, that is going to be my analysis for the refines in February. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of these refines? Which refine is your favorite, and what kind of builds are you planning to give these units? Make sure to drop a comment down below letting me know all about it. As always, I'd like to thank all my members for their constant support, and if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. This has been Oblivion. I'll catch you all later with more Fire Emblem Heroes.